Okay, very good morning and welcome to the broadcast. It's quite early in the morning, and as usual, many of our people are living in darkness. Moki Professor Akitoye Dada, Moki Baba Oloye Gbowo, Molobe Moki àwọn YSDF, mo lè kí gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá níbikíbi tá a bá wà. Tá a bá wo situation tí ilẹ̀ Yorùbá wà lénìí, many people are now worried or concerned, but ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn èèyàn wà worried from Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Libya, most African countries. A lot of people are concerned, but as usual, many other people are not worried. And it seems that ìdí táwa kan ṣe insist pé it is time that Nigeria needs to be reviewed. While some agree, some disagree. Our 64 years of Nigeria independent. I believe I'm a lossy 65 towards the end of October. The question a lot of people might always want to know is, why should Nigeria divide? And the answer is very simple. Nigeria needs to divide so that our we can have a better future. Muki Wadada. Muki Nibubuti Ebawa around the world. Muki àwọn tí wọ́n sáré pé kí ilẹ̀ Yorùbá lè ní òmìnira. I've been watching a lot of news and a lot of things, and as I was just preparing to go to bed, I decided I would just speak again. The more that we are speaking, the more it is for the interests of our people. Regardless of whether people agree, believe that the Yoruba people should exit Nigeria. Mo láǹfààní àti dé one or two places lánàá. Mo kí President Talon for his effort to maintain the history of this part of the world, the Benin Republic. And there is still a lot to explore. A lot of things will distract us from the reality of what is happening in Nigeria. The election that the politicians are preparing for will be used again to distract many people. But one thing is that our mama were on their toes, and they know that already. I'm sure they know that. Tó bá gbé ìgbésẹ̀ mẹ́ta, àwọn náà máa gbé méjì. Nigeria has failed ever since the creation, and we don't know how much more we need to explain to the people. Some knows, while many people do not know. But my job and the job of many of our media that are working around the clock is to keep people awake of the reality of what is happening in Nigeria. I visited a place called the Door of No Return in Uda, the Benin Republic. It's similar to Badagry, how I'm going the point of no return. Nílùú Benin bíbá ẹni ó wà. And it does explain itself. Ìyà tí àwọn òyìnbó ti fi àwọn baba ńlá wa jẹ. They have suffered and they had to endure a lot during the time of the slave trade. And even up to Bashe Soroi, most African countries are still in slave trade. It was a very emotional to visit such a memorial. And it's very sad. I want to see expectation that they should know better. Refuse to say much. Látara pé we have been sold out again. The door of no return. Fẹ̀yìntì Ẹ̀gbọ́bẹ̀rì, you are privileged to have been following a platform like ours, where we have the privilege to visit this memorial. All I can say is that there is a lot of our history that has been deliberately destroyed by the Europeans, and that has affected us till date. And if we continue to live in denial, we might end up become another history. We are not going to be here forever. There's no doubt about that. Forever. We pray for long life and hope that we can live a life for a very long period. But all I saw when I went down there the first time, because of my calculate time that we got there very late and I couldn't do much and I couldn't see much. I'm talking about the door of no return. Ni Wuda, in about an hour plus outskirts of Cotonou. I am pleased that I visited the place and to be able to see and feel the energy of what our forefathers had to endure with the white people during the colonial period. And whatever they endure as of the time, it's still the same thing that we are still enduring today as well. Nothing has changed in the last many years. In táwọn tàná tó go through, òun làwa náà ṣì ń go through lénìí. And we pray, ẹ má bínú ẹ̀ tẹ́ wà ní, I'm not sure why the network is fluctuating on there. Mo kí gbogbo èèyàn mọ káàárọ̀ oòjíire, mo kí wa dáadáa. Mo kí wa pé a ní ṣe wàhálà ìlásán lágbára Jésù Kristi. Lọ́la inú oṣù Ramadan tí a wà nú ẹ̀. Lọ́la àwọn tó tẹ̀lé Yorùbá tí àwa náà wá ń sáré pé kí ó má bàjẹ́ mọ́ wa lọ́wọ́. Ẹ jẹ́ kí ẹni tó fún wa ní super chat ká tó máa tẹ̀síwájú. Mo kí gbogbo ẹni tí ẹ̀ ń bẹ ní Ayétòrò. Mo kí gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá ní gbogbo ibi tá a bá wà. We will never be tired. And rather than being tired, mo kí brother mi Aziz ní gbogbo Miami. Kàkà kó rẹwà, egungun wa máa lé sí ni. Kàkà kí ó rẹwà, egungun wa ó máa lé sí. And that is the most important part ta ní láti kọ́kọ́ work on. We must never be tired, and we must never be ready to give up. No matter how long it will take, no matter how much pain we have to endure, I don't think we can endure the kind of pain táwọn bàbá wa, àwọn ìyá wa tó go through lọ́wọ́ àwọn òyìnbó during the colonial period. So tá bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ pé à ń endure àbí à ń go through pain, it is going to be for a very, very limited time. Kò ní lọ bẹ́ẹ̀ forever. The history that we followed today or yesterday, the 4th, Tomuwade Uda, Nilu Benin Republic, is something that a lot of us need to understand that is a massive history. Ẹni tó bá ti lọ sí Badagry, the same point of no return yẹn náà ni similar one tí mo lọ ní Benin Republic. And I'll give us some background. And the question is, are we ready to fight our way out, or are we ready to give up? Ìkànnì méjèèjì a gbọ́dọ̀ mú. Is either we give up or we maintain the spirit to fight on. And when I mean fight, it doesn't literally mean kayo ada, kayo akesirawa. There are many ways to fight, and one of the best ways táwọn olóṣèlú like òun là ń ṣe lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́. One of the most important ways tí a lè fi gbara wa sílẹ̀ òun ni ká maintain this kind of awareness láti lè jẹ́ káwọn èèyàn wa are conscious of what is happening within our surroundings. Many people are already aware, whereas many people are not aware. So àwọn tí wọ́n wà aware wọ́n mọ̀ pé the only result tí a fi lè padà sí ẹsẹ̀ àárọ̀ wa ni pé kí Yorùbá kó kúrò nù contraction àti zoo tó ń pè ní Nàìjíríà táwọn òyìnbó create. Àwọn òyìnbó create kò ń ṣe fíìmù àti the purpose of the creation of Nigeria is nothing more than the fact that àwọn òyìnbó tó mú Nàìjíríà tó sọ papọ̀ àtàwọn tó gbọ́ra wọn àtàwọn tó gbọ́ra wọn yé, everybody was put together in 1914, and we are facing the consequence of that today. Mo kí gbogbo èèyàn wa tẹ́tí darapọ̀ mọ́ wa. The door of no return is a memorial to enslaved Africans in Wudar in Benin and the Elimina Castle in Ghana. Is a concrete and a bronze arc on the beach that commemorates the transatlantic slave trade. What they have been able to do only during the slave trade, because I keep asking the question, báwo làwọn òyìnbó ṣe ní power láti lè conquer wa tó fi di pé a wà níbi tá a wà lénìí. Àwọn kan náà àwọn kan dalẹ̀, àwọn kan ní àwọn kan náà jà, and they fought very hard. But tí ọ̀dàlẹ̀ bá ti pọ̀ jù, it could affect a lot of things, and that's exactly what we witness when bàtàwọn òyìnbó dé, àwọn Portuguese tí wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí explore, because exploration táwọn ṣe ló gbé wọn dé Africa. When they were exploring, they were looking for, àwọn náà fẹ́ survive ni, and we cannot blame them. Ẹni tó fẹ́ survive will do anything and whatever it takes. So the white people did what they have to do during those periods to survive. But that had a big impact on the lives of millions of other Africans. The consequence of not allowing them to have destroyed, conquer, change the boundaries, change the territories, is what we are facing today. Because from what we know and what we heard, in Agbonekwe, Oyo Empire ló dé Benin Republic, and I'm not sure as at the time there will be restriction of borders. You can travel from Oyo to Benin during that era without any much restriction. But today, to even travel between Benin Republic and Nigeria is like a big problem. And these are two same families, same generation, but these two now has been cut apart. Àwọn France took the part of Benin Republic during the 1884 Berlin Conference, while àwọn British àwọn mú Nigeria. And the consequence of that is what we are facing today as people, as Yoruba people. So when we look at what played out during that era, the door of no return, which is again equivalent to point of no return, as it is known. A lot of you have seen most of the posts. I still have a few more videos that I'll be posting later, but at least many people have seen most of the videos that we projected from this beautiful location, as you can see right there in the camera. So what you're looking at there, point here, the moment you arrive at this point, the moment during the slave trade, you get to this point, you become finally taken away to another continent. So, but kudos to the president of Benin Republic, President Patrick Talon. They've decided to create a recreation of this junction, this particular point. As you can see, most of you have seen it already. Now, what we should be asking ourselves now is, what are we going to do to reverse it? Should we allow Nigeria to continue, knowing fully well that Nigeria was created by the white British during the protectorate of the North and the South? Many evidence have pointed out that God did not create Nigeria. It's not the creation of God. Nigeria is man-made. The structure of that man-made has now had impact on the lives of millions of Yoruba people. Who is going to rescue us? And how do we plan to be rescued? The question again is, who is going to rescue us from this problem that we are facing right now in Nigeria? And how? Should we leave ourselves to continue to live in Nigeria, or should we fight our way out? The option is left to us. Option here, is not in the hands of anybody. We have a great opportunity now, a massive opportunity to rewrite history if we feel we can do it. And I know we can do it. But Talofe move is emotion. Who is going to move the motion that Yoruba people needs to leave Nigeria and allow Nigeria to remain within those that wants to keep it? Baba Akintoye has done his best and is still doing his best. Baba Akintoye has already moved the motion that Nigeria should be allowed to dissolve. Baba Akintoye ti move motion here. Now, Taloma endorse and support Baba Akintoye after he has moved the motion that Nigeria needs to dissolve. Our politicians do not want to move the motion because they are operating Nigeria on behalf of not the Yoruba people, but on behalf of the white people that are still controlling Nigeria from behind the scene. We can allow Nigeria to continue to operate and it will not make any changes on our lives. Any changes, or we can allow Nigeria to dissolve and new changes, new fresh air we can breathe when we'll eventually retain back our true self-determination out of Nigeria. But what a lot of people are waiting for is they are waiting for somebody else to move that motion when we already have Professor Akintoye that has done that already. But because there are many stakeholders in this contraction, in this zoological country, Nigeria, there are many stakeholders. And these stakeholders are doing everything so that we can remain Nigeria, knowing fully well that being one Nigeria is already affecting millions of indigenous people. It's not working. It has failed itself. It is not representing us. So, going back to the door of no return, like I was saying earlier, the door of no return is a reminder, this particular entrance that you can see right there on my screen is a reminder of the horrors, is a reminder of the horrors mo kí wa lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí mo fi kíkí mi mo fi kí gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá. Èní máa jẹ́ ọjọ́ karùn-ún nínú oṣù kẹta ọdún 2025. The time zone will be different, but according to the time right now, it's just coming up to 2:30 a.m. You might be wondering why we have not slept. Many people died during the transatlantic slave trade. Transatlantic slave trade. Many innocent lives were lost. Mo kí gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí. My visit to this place, I've always loved to. Especially, I've not had the privilege to visit the one in Badagry, which is called Point of No Return. So traveling down to there in Benin Republic, láti lọ wo ibi tó kó àwọn ẹrú gbà kọjá tó fi kó wọn sínú ọkọ̀ on the ship, all tight and moved to different parts of the world láti lọ lò wọ́n fún ẹrú. Today, most of us are the one paying ourselves to return now and still become the slave. Àwa là ń fọwọ́ ara wa lọ sí Europe. Àwa là ń fi ọwọ́ ara wa ra ticket lọ sí America, Canada, so that we can have and live better due to many problems that are encountered on our own territory that was created and given to us to maintain. Our land is meant to enrich us. Our land are meant to protect us. Our lands are meant to defend us against many atrocities, including illness. Our land is meant to give us great economy as citizens. But the fact remains is that since some of us are already comfortable, we care less about the millions of others that are not comfortable. But it is okay to give from our little comfort to those that are not comfortable and live it like that, rather than ask the question, is it possible for everybody to be comfortable in Africa as Yoruba people? Yes, it is. But since some are comfortable, they will continue to argue that whatever the white people have done is done already and we can move on, knowing fully well that until you visit places like these, you realize that you cannot move on. Until you visit places like these, you can watch all the videos that we have already posted on our timeline. The door of no return is a reminder of the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade. It is also a place where visitors like myself, Koikimedia, can reflect on the legacy of slavery and the impact it had on generations of Africans. So Taban sọ pé a fẹ́ gba country lẹ́ni. Many people disagree because they are still under the mental slave trade. Many people are still defending what the white man has created. Many people will even fight and kill you because you are asking for a review of what transpired during the slave trade. Many people will attack you because they are still under the slave mentality. But for those of us that are no longer under that colonial slave mentality, we would have to continue to fight and push and save many lives from the white people that came to Africa and took away our dignity and join us together, our Yoruba, and anything in common. We have nothing in common, but the white people that came during that time did what they did because they wanted to survive, and they cannot be bothered on the consequences of what they were doing. We are not compatible people, yet we were still forced to live together. And after 100 years, we're asking whether it is still worth it to live together, knowing fully well that this is having a big toll on the lives of many of us. But because again of the selfish interest of some individuals among us, they have decided to sell their souls to the devil, and they will attack you as they are doing every day. Nítorí à ń béèrè fún ẹ̀tọ́ wa. The white people do not own Yoruba land. Neither does anyone owns it more than the indigenous people. We, the indigenous people, own the land, yet the land is no longer fruitful for many of us, apart from the 1% that are enjoying what is meant to be for millions and millions of people. The motion has already been moved, even prior before 2019, when Professor Kitoye and many others asked for Yoruba people to be allowed to exit Nigeria. If we do nothing now, I believe many generations will still suffer the consequences of us doing nothing. We can do something, and what we can do is for us to come together and demand the total disintegration of the union. And that would be a great benefit for everybody. But not many people will want to toe that line because they are still under the slave mentality. So the privilege for me as somebody that is fighting for the Yoruba people to visit these door of no return means a lot. At least it gives me understanding of what our great fathers, mothers had to endure. Some of them died in the process. Not all of them arrived at their destination. Ironically, the same way many of us are living in Europe today, in Canada, in America, even though we would love to live far away from these places, but because of the earnings, the comfort, the security, the welfare, the education, the progression that we can achieve in this country, we have to endure the weather. And that means that many of us have lived in this country because of the future that we believe we can gain. But yet, the weather has never been conducive for us. And it is because of the weather as at the time that the white people need to survive as well. They have to survive, and that means they have to travel miles out of their own comfort that is not comfort as at the time, because from history, most of them were also in depression. They were going through a lot. The United Kingdom that you are seeing today, most countries that you are seeing today, they've all gone through a lot. But for them to survive, they had to travel down to another continent. And that continent is Africa. Nínú Africa ni Yorùbá land ti jáde. And we can now see that every step that the white people have taken from the deity, what if we do for Africa, they have destroyed it. And that is still what we're experiencing today. So some of our people have been assets. They've used them against us, whether in the Yoruba land or other African countries, and many people got killed along the line because they were fighting to defend the territory called Africa. So what we experienced yesterday with my team traveling to Wudar, which is called the door of no return, is something that I will never forget, knowing that millions of Africans were removed forcefully. Some of them never wanted to travel to these places because we're Mobushimari. Even though that some of us that have lived in Europe today, some will discourage you not to go, but I'm not going to discourage anybody. If you have the privilege to travel, it's good. But I can tell you that in almost a month that I've been in Africa, you cannot compare that with my 25 years in the UK. First, the weather is extremely beautiful. It might be hot, but that is how nature, that is how it is meant to be. Before I started this program, I've gone to have my cold bath. I dare not do so in the United Kingdom. Even during the what we call summer, you will still have to use a bit of warm water. For almost a month that I have lived in Africa, I have not used any hot water latifuwe. And I'm trying to figure out what really are we looking for in Europe? What are we looking for in Canada? What are we looking for in America, in Asia countries? Countries, we can develop our own system of government within the Africa But what we have seen is that most of the African leaders are compromised. They are also working against their people. Most of the African countries are working against their people. So what I experienced, because my focus on the broadcast is about this, my visit to Door of No Return. Very emotional, very deep history. Very painful to know that our Babalawa, they were forced out of this beautiful part of the world and removed and taken to other places. Somebody said we left because we couldn't survive in our own country. But the question is, are we going to remain outside forever, or are we going to fight back and take what belongs to us, regardless of what might be the end game? The option is on the table, and the option is very clear, but not everybody are ready to fight so that we can retain and gain back what belongs to us as indigenous people, to Jomo Yoruba. It will take a lot of sacrifice, because like I said, the white people that came to Africa, they had to endure a lot before they survive and take as many of what they needed in Africa. Even after the slave trade has ended, according to what we are told, quote and unquote, many of us are still suffering, regardless of whether you have lived in Europe, like I have done in 25 years. I still suffer just the same way our forefathers had to suffer and endure during the slave trade. Many of us are still experiencing a lot of intoshele during that period. A lot. And we will continue to suffer, even though, and try to endure, because the Yoruba land has been destroyed by the people that are meant to protect it for their own selfish gain. So the only thing we can do now is to either fight back and take it from them, or we might lose everything completely, and it might take another 100 years if there will be anybody that will be ready to fight it again. Most of us still have the strength to endure and fight. But if we do not finish the job, we might end up becoming weak and weaker on a daily basis. How do you feel when you hear that enslaved Africans were led to awaiting ships and never to come back? To but at the point you are not likely to come back. Most of us are experiencing the same thing today. Most of you, including myself, you have lived outside. I'm not talking about those inside, because those ones are already caged. and the key has been thrown away. They cannot fight back. They are already being oppressed in Yoruba land today. But the rest of us that are living outside the territory might never come back home. We might never return back home. And that is a fact. Gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n kó lọ at this door of no return, and that's why they say door ilẹ̀kùn tó bá ti wọnú ilẹ̀kùn yẹn ò lè padà sẹ́yìn. Many of us have now traveled to Europe and countries around the world. Whether you are in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s, in your 70s, in your 80s, and you don't even know when you are going to be fully back home. And when I mean back home, I'm not talking about Mawashi 2 months in Africa, till weather about to change in Europe, Masapada. I am not talking about that kind of lifestyle. I'm talking about relocating back completely. The reason why we can't relocate back is because there is nowhere to relocate back to. Our home has now become a threat to us as people. Let's go and read a little bit more about the history behind the door of no return. Let's go and understand what actually happened. Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ during this period, and what can we do differently today láti change it? What we can do is already been given to us, which is called our right to self-determination, to regain our freedom and to be free forever. It can be done if we are determined, if we can pull it together, if we can come as one unity, if we can come under one block. But don't expect many Yoruba people to support this agenda. They are under slave mentality that was created by the white people, that created this contraction known as Nigeria, that has only enriched 1% of the Yoruba people, and the remaining 99 are living in abject poverty. And that is not going to change during this administration, or the previous administration, or the coming administration, if we allow such to happen. The 16 years of the PDP was crime against humanity, crime against the Yoruba people and the rest of the indigenous people. The 10 years of the APC is another crime that continues. So if we do not fight now, it will be extremely difficult. So it is important that we do whatever it takes láti gbara wa sílẹ̀. And I'm sure we have everything it takes to do so. The door of no return like right, my trip to Ghana marked my first time in Africa and combined research with a spiritual homecoming. This was put together by Sherry Finley. In the summer of 1953, Richard Wright left Paris for West Africa Gold Coast, where Kwame Nkrumah, that country's first black prime minister, was about to make a historic bid for independence from British colonial rule. The purpose of Richard's trip, his first trip to Africa, was to document Kwame Nkrumah's political moment and to dispel stereotypical myths about the continent in the process. Yet, as Richard's reflection in the now classic Black Power make clear, a 6-month sojourn, I have just used 1 month, and I've not even done enough to give back to you why we need to fight now as Yoruba people. I pray I would have this kind of time, this kind of energy, strength, just like somebody did in 1953. Imagine somebody left Paris in 1953. Ó kúrò ní Paris láti wá sí West Africa Gold Coast nígbàtí Kwame Nkrumah, the first black prime minister, nígbàtí àwọn Ghana tó gba independent. So when some of you keep asking somebody like me, why would you leave the UK and come to fight or create awareness in Africa? It has been done before. There is nothing that is happening today, as we know, according to history, that somebody else has not done before. The breakup of Nigeria is very imminent. It will break. And nobody can stop the breakup of Nigeria. It's just about how much time we feed the gas to operate Nigeria. The day we remove the oxygen from Nigeria, it will collapse. But since the diaspora, those at home, are still feeding it, that's the reason why I see Nigeria should maintain a rate. Many of our people are suffering because the good man and the good women refuse to stand up. Ẹlòmíì ń bẹ̀rù pé àwọn ọmọ ibi tó lè lọ já sí. But we forget that whatever we are doing today, we will rewrite history like the one I'm talking about today, which is called the door of no return. Nígbà tí wọ́n ń ṣe òwò ẹrú, tó bá ti gbé ẹ débí báyìí, ó padà sílé mọ́, wọ́n ti tà ẹ́ síta nìyẹn. Many of us do not even know how many of our uncles, grandparents that died during this process. So what I am doing today is not new. Richard Wright, and I believe ó lè jẹ́yàn dúdú, ó lè jẹ́yàn funfun, but for that person to have left Paris in 1953 and end up using 6 months in Africa, there must be something that is unique, that is trying to research on. Ibi mẹ́ta ni mo lọ lánàá. I've only given you 2. I was also at the Amazon statue, in Benin, near Cotonou. I'm sure again some of you have seen that one. Is called the Amazon statue. Ere arábìnrin kan tí mo ya picture lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́, and we did videos and all that. The last time I went again, it was very dark, so I couldn't do much. So I decided to return back yesterday so that I can be able to capture it in the broad daylight. Ere area is 30 foot from the ground all the way to the top. Tebari ẹni kò ṣọkùnrin obìnrin ni. These are warriors that fought and defend against the white people during the era of Dahomey. But as usual, we are always scared of the unknown, even though there's nothing to be scared of. These women of that period are true warriors that fought to defend their beliefs and their people. So kò ń ṣe ní àwọn èèyàn tí ń jà láti defend àwọn èèyàn. And that's the reason why we will continue to appreciate and give kudos to Chief Sunday Igboho Osha. Kò ń ṣe pé òun nìkan ni akíkanjú ọmọkùnrin nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. The rest are there, and we know, but wọ́n jáde láti wá sọ fún wa pé ẹni tí Igboho ń ṣe yẹn àwọn náà lè ṣe, even though wọ́n ní agbára ju Igboho lọ. So people like us will forever be grateful to Igboho for standing out to dúró fáwọn ọmọ Yorùbá látara pé àwọn ẹ̀yà kan tá ń pè ní Fúlàní wọ́n terrorize wa, wọ́n ṣe jàǹbá fún wa. And rather than kí gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá ká sowọ́ papọ̀ ká fi support tẹ̀lé lẹ́yìn, we saw what happened. The same àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá wọ́n ní kó lọ pa sílé ní July 1st, 2021. It was lucky, just by the grace of God, that he was not killed in the house. Many people have been killed like that. Babangida killed Delegiwa like that in 1980. Till date, he has not even apologized. Though 2 people lost their lives in Igboho's house, and we will never forget them. They were killed by Fulani and Yorubas. Tí wọ́n rán sí ilé olóyè Igboho, wọ́n pa Alhaji Fatai, his uncle, and the business associate was also killed, Alhaji Adegon. Their bodies has never been returned back as we speak to you right now. But Igboho survived, and we pray it will still survive any attack on him by his enemies, either the one that we know or the one that they are planning. But let me tell you all, we will come out for the rally at the appropriate time when Professor Itoye announced. And nobody can stop that, just like nobody could stop the people that defended the Dahomey. This statue, before we go back to the door of no return again, was put together, inaugurated just 3 years ago. But it's one of the beacons of Africa today. Just like many of us would have visited Trafalgar Square for those that live in the UK, or the one in Paris. But Awon Yibo, they are not going to tell you about the Amazon monument in Benin Republic, because that is what they do best, just like Boshiko Waleru. So don't expect them to come and tell you that you have the best in Africa, because these Amazon monuments that I took picture with and did a couple of videos around, we know that these are beautiful, and as you can see from there, you cannot buy these anywhere. That is myself behind it there, 30 foot. Our Tomodale is Ibon. The other side is, like a dagger. These are women, true warriors. But look at it today. Ọkùnrin bẹ̀rù. We have men that are scared of their lives. They cannot defend and protect their people. Because we want to drive big cars. We want to make sure that we live a better life. You can see why Igboho is different and is a unique person against others. I try not to really want to talk much about this man because I could really get emotion about it. But what I know is that history will remember him for what he's doing today and what he has done yesterday. I don't think some of you know that Igboho left his comfort zone in the last 3 years. I don't know how you feel that a man of his caliber had to endure ní ọdún mẹ́ta. Igboho fi ara jìyà fáwa. Ó ń fi ara ẹ̀ ó fi ń jìyà fún wa. He had no reason to do it. He had no reason to do it, but he's doing it because this has been done before by female warriors that are called the Amazon Dahomey warriors. Female warriors, làwọn ilé. Even àwọn tó jọ́bìnrin ilé ní bẹ̀rù. Because we don't want to lose too much of our precious wealth. I've been at the privilege for 3 years to see Igboho in Benin Republic until a couple of days before the burial. And I pity a lot of people that talk about him negatively all the time. This man is sacrificing everything for us. When I visited him in Benin Republic, and I looked at the lifestyle to Benin, and for me to have recalled how we were living in Soka, when my mom told me when she first traveled to Benin Republic that báwọn ṣe ibi tó lóye wà nǹkan kan, I just thought maybe it's just exaggeration. But for me now to see that he has to drop down everything, the lifestyle tó ń gbé ní Kútọ́nù àti tó ń gbé nínú ilé ẹ̀ ní Soka. I lived with him for 6 months in Soka. And for me to see that he had to live this lifestyle now so that Kimi àti Kálẹ̀ ayé gbé. And yet many people are attacking it. Igboho gave me a whole chalet to live while I was in Ibadan with him for that period. I was living in a whole chalet, exclusive with everything inside. And this man now has to come down a little bit lower than my own understanding that why is he doing it? Kí ni purpose tí Igboho ṣe ń ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀? Ṣó fẹ́ di president tàbádé Yorùbá land ni? Ṣó fẹ́ force àwọn ọmọ ẹ̀ pé kó wá jẹ president lé wa lórí ni? I now realize that àwọn kan wà tọ́lọ́run kan máa dá, and there's nothing that can change that. The government purposely pushed him out of Nigeria, and they have maintained that to make sure that it will remain outside while our Yoruba people will continue to be oppressed. One thing I know is that some of us are ready to sacrifice everything. Bashimbaloy. That I can guarantee. Ẹ̀yin ọmọ tẹ́ wà nílé, ẹ lọ dira dáadáa. Ẹ lọ ṣe ògùn kẹ́ dira dáadáa. I'll just leave that like that. We would not allow what Babakitoye and Igboho has suffered to go in vain. That I can assure you that. The same thing with Babakitoye. Do you know that the man left his comfort zone to come and sit in Cotonou, and the wife died here, and you are expecting people like me and the rest of us that believe in them that we should fuck off? Abi, we can fuck off. We kill a mashi. Abi. We don't have anything that we are going to do, but we will replicate exactly what has been done in the past, which is what I'm going to read now. The Amazon monument, or the Amazon gigantic monument, which is what you're looking right here. These monuments, as you can see right there from the images. The Amazon monument, or the Amazon gigantic monument, is a statue erected in the homage of the Amazon of Dahomey. It is made of metal structure with the bronze enveloped. It's 30-meter high. Nigigato Galosoke. Other way 150 tons. Placed on a mound. It is installed on the esplanade of the Amazon in the 12th district of the city of Cotonou, where I visited yesterday, in the south of Benin Republic. The Amazon monument was inaugurated on July the 30th, 2022 by President of Benin Republic, Patrick Talon. It represents a young female warrior. This is where I am replicating these with the young warriors, armed with rifle and sword, with her head pointing upward in victory. Even if I'll leave that for now. It is the second largest statue in Africa as of today, and also an attractive point in the heart of the ancient Dahomey. It is an historical feminine force which must serve as a reference point for the current and the future generations of Benin. Is a symbol of the history of Benin and the epic of the illustrious figures. A source of pride and a patriotic impulse among all the Beninese. Is an interest in the reappropriation of the strong identity, the symbol of Beninese women, which is the problem we're having in Nigeria. Nobody knows our true identity. We're just told we're Nigerians, even though we are in Nigeria. I want Oyibalawa for the white people, not create Nigeria. A perpetuation in the modern national context of the determined role of women in the culture and the history of the Beninese people. The statue, Tenwoi, of the Amazon symbolized values that will inspire the women and the men of Benin Now, this is what is important. Tabamaja ajayi. Ní kọ̀táwa náà gbé dání. Courage, bravery, and the patriotism. Tá a bá ti ní mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta yẹn, a lè ja ìjà tá à ń jà ìpanáfẹ́gbà Yorùbá nation. We gotta be brave people. Our bravery must be shown to anybody, including President Tinubu and the rest of the government. Tó bá fi pa gbogbo wa kó pa gbogbo wa dànù, but àwọn náà ní exist mọ́. If we cannot resolve these amicably and peacefully. Courage. I gotta be courage. Forget about whatever is surrounding you. If you don't have the courage, you will be defeated and you will lose and you cannot gain Yoruba nation. Courage, very, very important. Agbọ́dọ̀ wà courageous. Tá a bá wà courageous, we will be defeated and we will lose everything. I pray our own will not be like that. I pray that I need enough courage to fight this till the end. I pray that Ọlọ́run á fún wa ní strength àti courage láti lè jà ìjà yìí. The courage is very, very important and it is unique. If you do not have the courage, it will affect everything that you might think of. Tó bá ti ń rò nísìn pé àìtẹ̀ tí jáde fún rally o ti ń rò pé wọ́n máa yin tear gas, then you have already failed. Ó mọ̀ kán máa yin tear gas, then prepare for that. Ó mọ̀ kán máa yìnbọn lọ́ṣogùn so that tí ìbọn bá wá ó lè má bẹ́ẹ̀. Bravery. Go and train yourself in whatever formation among yourselves. Nobody will give you this freedom for free. And that will take us back to the door of no return. We need to also be patriotism. Alabangebe, Agbodo Yokuro. My wife brought this for me as a reminder. This was when I first arrived in the United Kingdom. That is me, Anthony Blair. This is 1998, maybe at the UK. I believe 98 or 99. You probably have never seen this picture before. That is Tony Blair and myself. Well, yada, but you can still see it right there. Yo, Jimmy, I keep telling you that. 1999, I believe, because I got to UK 98, September. This was a year after. Brighton, the Mulofun Labour Conference, in 1999. Calculate ìgbà yẹn lẹ́yìn sáré pé fi ṣe election ní Nigeria. Láti 1999, ayé ó ti get stopped. Ayé ò better. Wọ́n ti bà ayé ẹ̀ jẹ́. We are giving you the option now. That option is to allow ourselves to be courageous, bravery, and determine. The option is on the table. Igboho will need every single one of us. And sọ̀rọ̀ nípa Richard Wright tó fi Paris sílẹ̀ ní 1953. Do you know how many years ago was that? Láti wá sí ìgbà tó fi Kwame Nkrumah, the first black prime minister. Let's go further. I wanted to see the crumbling slave castle where my ancestor had lain painting in a hot despair erode. So definitely, arákùnrin tó ń kọ átíkù yìí, èèyàn dúdú ló máa jẹ́ tó fi lóun fẹ́ trace àwọn ancestors òun wá. I still have loads and loads of pictures and videos that I have not yet uploaded. Like I said, my visit to these door of no return is what I'm trying to explain. The time, like I said, is just about 3:30 a.m. in ọjọ́ karùn-ún nínú oṣù kẹta ọdún 2025. You're listening to Koikimedia, bringing the world closer to your doorsteps. He chose to travel to the Gold Coast by ship than a 12-day voyage, rechanting the course taken previously by the slave ship captain and the colonial officials from Liverpool in England to Takoradi in the Gold Coast. 2 summers ago, I traveled to Ghana to conduct research in the historic castle and the dungeon of the Cape Coast and Elimina since Wright trip 40 years ago. These sites have become hugely popular with tourists, just like I saw a lot of tourists when I visited the door of no return right inside Uda, outskirts of Cotonou yesterday. This man is talking about his trip to Africa and also combined research with spiritual homecoming. Today, most of us are probably forgotten about our spiritual being because we have been told that it is only the Christianity and the Islam. Abi, wait for my next upload on social media, hopefully before the end of the week. I visited a place, Igiye Onotiwa Nibe, for 600 years. My visit to a place yesterday, igi kan wà níbẹ̀, wọ́n ní igi yẹn ti wà níbẹ̀ for 600 years. Do you know what 600 years is? Nigeria has never been thought of, born, alive. Wọ́n ti lálàá pé Lugard tó wá sọ Nigeria lórúkọ tó represent àwọn Britain. Wọ́n ti lálàá pé wọ́n máa sunrun ẹ̀ débi wọ́n máa lóyún ẹ̀. That is the history that many of us, thank you so much for the super chat, Mr. Joseph Oweye, we appreciate. Wọ́n ti sunrun Lugard nígbà tí igi yẹn tí Elédùmarè ti dá síbi tó wà. kò dẹ̀ kúrò lójú kan bí tó ní wà for 600 years. Do you know what 600 years is? 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 years. You'll see it when I upload it. And it just shows that what it gba gidi kúrò lọ́wọ́ wa, ó wá gbé their own image ó gbé lé wa lọ́wọ́. So just reading what this man is talking about, that he came to Africa to do a combined research with a spiritual homecoming. Because we believe that we have no issues and problems because àtọ̀ ọ̀nà tí ó yẹ ká tọ̀ mọ́ nígbà tí wọ́n ti gbé another doctrine lé wa lọ́wọ́. Àwọn ọ̀nà tí ó yẹ ká máa tọ̀ àti yàbàrà kúrò lára ẹ̀ is because we have also been part of the slave trade. So my visit all right. I'm recording, so I don't want to be mentioning too much names. It will go into my recording. But I will appreciate everyone before the end of the program. What I'm trying to explain is that 3 unique places I visited yesterday, fantastic. We talked about the Amazon warriors, the women. I want that woman. We're talking about the door of no return, and the last one, I will leave it until I push out the images and the videos out, then I will come back and do a program on it. So what the woman sọ pé àwọn ará bí yóò níṣẹ́ and all that. It is understandable. It is slave mentality, no share. So I can't blame you. You need spiritual cleansing. And I pray that many of Amuti won't attack you. I pray that you will come back to your sense. Arakunrini, I have traveled from New York to England, where I spent several weeks examining archives and exhibition in London, Bristol, and Liverpool, the ports notorious for their connection to slave trade. I also visited Liverpool. If you have been following me in detail, I must delete it because this phone does not have enough memory. I just deleted the image of the image of how people were tied, the red image, how our parents, grandparents were tied and all that during the slave trade. So my visit to Liverpool Slave Museum, I believe, was 3 years ago now. Very shocking, very sad to witness, very emotional, but the most one that I'm now feeling is the one that I'm talking about, which is the door of no return. Do you imagine how the sea, people were moved into awaiting ships and they were never going to return back to their land? That is what the Fulanis are also planning today. Push us out of our land and you will never have to return to that land. Some of you might say it's not going to happen. Some might even say it will not happen in some area in Yoruba land. Every one of us will be pushed out if we do not act now. Taba fail láti act in the sin, it will come back on us. And that's the reason why we need to keep the consciousness out there continuously. The evidence has pointed that if we do nothing, and I pray it will never happen. Into lè mú èèyàn kúkúrò ní New York, ó kọ́kọ́ wá sí England, then ó ṣe wá fly láti London to Accra. From there I took a state transportation corporation bus crowded with Ghanaian travelers and tourists from around the world along the rugged hill coast, and saw for the first time the crumbling fort and the angry waters that still churn around there. It was a view that I imagined to be not too dissimilar to the one that my ancestors in the Koffer might have witnessed centuries ago on their defiant and painful march to the coast. When I was at the door of no return, you'll be looking at the water and imagine that people have been chained. What did they want? They can't do much. And they were lining them to go on the ship. And some of them would look back and say, is that the end? Ṣé ká jókòó nítorí pé a fẹ́ wà comfortable, fáwa táwa comfortable? Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm no longer comfortable in the UK. I want to return home. And I need to do that before I get to my old age, because my home is Yoruba land and they need me now to add my own input, add my own value before we will depart this world. I have no more business in the UK as far as I'm concerned. My business is done after 25 years. But we cannot do it without everybody coming together. But some of us are not ready to sacrifice, because as you will comfort our people at home have been caged. I want us to listen to this man. Before we go further, I'll try and keep it to 2 hours so that Carly Losu. But let me quickly just play this before we go. Okay, I need to turn the internet on. Moki Bubua, Ashiyori Lamashi, Adishashiti, Ashadu. It's somebody that you all know very well. Just listen to him. Because of what? On a don't money here. Àwọn tálákà ń kígbe. Àwọn tálákà sunkún ìyà jẹ àwọn tálákà. Inú àwọn tálákà ò.
the same. President who went over. Take where we want to be. I'm going to buy salary. I'm going to help you. I'm going to cancel the phone. I'm going to buy any. Because it's a come on. Nigeria wants you. You are willing. You can go to the home. I want to go to the home. What do you know about our person? But I want to do 500. You don't think we budget tonight. You don't think I will make a more deal. You are very much. The person who put them on doing a doctor. If you want to make it 10,000 in a town of the jail, okay, so.
If we don't act now and help our people, there could be more disaster waiting. Táwa kan bá wà comfortable, àwọn máa ń sọ̀rọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ tó ń sọ inú tẹ̀lé sọ jáde lẹ́nu, but agbọ́n tó sọ pé ìyàwó lé wọnú DMN. I'm gonna say the way he say kó lè bá yé wa, ẹ má bínú. Ìyàwó lé ó lọ sínú DM bàbá wa, ẹ̀gbọ́n wa, Ọba Solomon. Wọ́n ní wọ́n sọ pé ẹ máa ń dó àwọn èèyàn, ẹ wá dó èmi náà kẹ́ fún mi ní 10,000. And yet, in this same country, in this same Yoruba land precisely, because she took on to Nigeria, I want us to see these images. I've talked about it many times, and I've told you that it is there because this evidence was sent to me. These are raw gold from Osun State. As at the time that this intel got to me a few years back, it has been going on for years. But approach me, but when I was eventually approached, I was given on the daily, weekly, don't be gold in our airport, Osun State gold, Mele. Aderiyawo lé tó wọnú DM because wa dóhùn fún 10,000. Aderi gold. These are how it is packed and shipped out of Nigeria on a Turkish airline. Ìlú tó ń lọ, I will leave that for now. I was sent not just these, with all the evidence of the transaction, of the receipt and everything, from how it has been moved out of Nigeria and where it is going. This is how they're loading it onto the aircraft and get out of Nigeria, Yoruba land, and you can see why I could get angry a lot during my live program. Ìyàwó lé ní kó wá dóhùn fún 10,000. Bí ọmọ Ọ̀ṣun State ni tí kò mọ̀ pé gold ó wà ní. This is how they are packaging the gold. Inú igi ló máa ń gbé sí. That is raw, pure gold from Osun State. Let me leave it like that for this morning. We are still begging the politicians, let us come on the round table and do the needful for humanity's sake and dissolve Nigeria. We are pleading If, as at the time that this situation gets to the M1, nobody would beg us to stop. Nobody. There is still room to negotiate, deliberate within the very limited time and allow the Yoruba people to go. The politician in the Southwest, Mumbai, my name is OLAYOMI KOIKI. I am begging. Today is the 5 March 2025. I am begging you, ẹ jẹ́ ká divide Nigeria. Tẹ́ bá ní divide Nigeria, mo ní ẹ jẹ́ ká divide it for peace and unity to come back. If you say it is not going to be done, I will leave the rest in my stomach. But one thing I can tell you is, there are some people in Yoruba land that will not listen to us anymore. We are telling them not to do anything stupid. We are pleading with them on your behalf. Time. Ago Simon. Time is not there. They have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose. And I have told you again and again, let's dissolve this union. Union yìí ó ń pa wá lára gan, ó ń pa wá lára gan, ó ń affect ọmọ Yorùbá gan. Ntí wọ́n fi send video yìí sí mi, it's just for me to watch as Ọba Solomon sọ níbí báyìí. Ó lóun sunkún pé ìyàwó lé wọnú DM. Ẹ má bínú pé mo láti sọ̀rọ̀. We don't normally say such on my program. Ìyàwó lé ní kó wá dóhùn kó fún ní 10,000. Some of us might have this 10,000. Camera tí a lò sí event Èkìtì lásán, àmọ́ táwọn ọmọ yẹn ṣe sí kan náà ẹ̀ ó wà faulty. 10,000 mo ṣe send sí team mi ní alẹ́ àná, wọ́n ní 20,000 ló máa tún ṣe. Mo send 10,000 sí wọn, call if you repair. And this same 10,000 here, funny cover do. And you think that people like me and some of us are comfortable with this kind of madness. Abi? Madness in my deal. Tí gbogbo wa máa jára wa sí wòwò lójú títì. Real madness in bọ̀. I'm ending this program in 4 minutes. Mo kí gbogbo ènìyàn wa, mo nílé máa dárúkọ because I'm going to bed now. It's been a long day. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ bá mọ àwọn olóṣèlú, ẹ bá wa sọ fún wọn pé kó jọ, kó bá governor àti deputy governor sọ̀rọ̀, kó pe bàbá Kítóyè, kó sọ fún Tinubu pé kó divide Nigeria. Ọ̀rọ̀ yìí máa lẹ́yìn gan-an. Ṣẹ́rí ta kàn ṣe rọra ń bára wa sọ tá à ń sọ bí ọmọlúàbí, ta rọra ń sọ pẹ̀lú pẹ̀tù. Ó lè lọ yíwọ́ o. ẹ má yẹ ká jẹ́ kó dé stage yẹn at all. Our people have given you enough time from 1999. 1999 ni mo ya picture yìí pẹ̀lú Tony Blair. That is how many years ago? That is myself and the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. This is 1999 at the Labour Conference at Brighton. In that period that I have lived outside Nigeria, my life has been much better. Kí ló dé tí life àwọn tí a fi sílẹ̀ sílẹ̀, kí ló dé tí life tí wọ́n better? Why do we have democracy that our people cannot enjoy it? Sitting in the military, the military time is completed, yet ẹ fi ìyà ní àwọn èèyàn lára láti 1999 títí di wákàtí àbí. Mo kí gbogbo wa lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí ó rán yín lámà sùn. Orúkọ mi ni Ọláyọmí Kóìkì, agbẹnusọ fún gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá tí wọ́n ní kí n sọ fẹ́yìn olóṣèlú pé ẹ já yanjú ọ̀rọ̀ yìí. Èèyàn kan pè mí lánàá láti UK, ó ń sunkún àgbàlagbà. Mo ń try láti fi work out kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀, kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀, kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀. He's ready to give his life on this cause. He has nothing more to lose. The brother died in Nigeria yesterday. I will leave it like that. They will travel down back to Yoruba land and defend our people. He was crying. I could not control him. Wọ́n sunkún gidi. Èmi nìkan kọ́ ni mo ní madness. Àwọn tó ní madness jù mí gan wà tó pọ̀ rẹpẹtẹ. Ẹ sọ fún àwọn olóṣèlú yìí, ẹ má kó pẹ́ mọ́. Ó rán ayọ̀ lẹ́nu àṣù, ó dàrọ̀.